Welcome back to part 2 of A Study in Consciousness by Annie Besant. This part 2 is designated as will, desire, and emotion. So let's get into this first chapter, this second section, or part 2. Chapter 1, the will to live. In the brief study of origins, which forms chapters 1 and 2, or sections 1 and 2 of the introduction to this book, we saw that the monad, coming forth from the first logos, showed in his own nature the triunity of his source, the aspects of will, wisdom, and activity. And that's, we're looking over here on the right, and that's on this second plane, all right, the monadic plane. Will, wisdom, and activity. It is to the study of will showing itself as will on the higher plane and as desire on the lower. So now we are talking about the astral. So this is where the emotion and desire are found. That we are now to turn our attention. Okay, well, this is where they say most of us have our issues currently, is with the astral plane and getting off of it. So this should be a great study. And the study of desire leads us to the study of emotion, indissolubly attached to it. So they are essentially one and the same, or go hand in hand, right? Desire and emotion. So we have already seen that we are here because we have will to live in the lower worlds, that the will determines our stay here. But the nature and power and work of the will are for the most part but little realized, for in the earlier stages of evolution it is not manifest on the lower planes except as desire, and it must be studied as desire before it can be understood as will. It is the power aspect of consciousness, ever veiled within the self, hiding, as it were, behind wisdom and activity, and refuse to it the dignity of an aspect of consciousness. So let's start that over. Ever veiled within the self, hiding, as it were, behind wisdom and activity, but prompting both to manifestation. So hidden is its nature that many regard it as one with activity and refuse to it the dignity of an aspect of consciousness. Yet activity is the action of the self on the not-self. Activity is the action of the self on the not-self, that which gives to the not-self its temporary reality, that which creates. But will hides ever within, impelling to activity, attracting, repelling the core of the heart of being. Will is the power which stands behind cognition and stimulates activity. Thought is the creative activity, but will the motive power. Our bodies are as they are because the self has for countless ages set his will that matter should be shaped into forms whereby he may cognize and energize on all outside himself. It is written in an ancient scripture, of a truth this body is mortal, O Magvan. It is subject to death. Yet it is a resting place of the immortal and bodiless Atma. now we're up here talking about the self. The eyes are intended as organs of observation for the being who dwelleth within the eyes. He who willeth, I shall smell, is the Atma, wishing to experience fragrance. He who wills, I shall speak, is the Atma, wishing to utter words. He who wills, I shall hear, is the Atma, wishing to listen to sounds. He who wills, I shall think, is the Atma. The mind is the celestial eye, observing all desirable objects. By means of the mental celestial eye, Atma enjoys all. That's from the Chanda Yoga Upanishad. This is the secret, the motive power of evolution. True, the great will traces the high road of evolution. True, spiritual intelligences of many grades guide the evolving entities along that high road, but too little attention has been paid to the countless experiments, failures, successes, the little byways and twists and turns and curls, due to the groupings of the separate wills, each will to live trying to find self-expression. The contacts from the outer world arouse in each Atma the will to know what touches. He knows but little in the jellyfish, but the will to know shapes in form after form, an ever-improving eye that hinders less his power of perception. As we study evolution, we become more and more conscious of wills which shape matter, but shape it by groping experiments, not by clear vision. The presence of these many wills makes the constant branching of the evolutionary tree. There is a real truth in Professor Clifford's playful story to the children about the great saurians of an early age. Some choose to fly and became birds, others chose to crawl and became reptiles. Often we see an attempt foiled, and then the attempt is made in another direction. Often we see the most clumsy contrivances side by side with the most exquisite adaptations. The latter are the results of intelligences knowing their aims and constantly chiseling the matter into appropriate forms. The others are the outcome of the strivings from within, still blind and groping but steadfastly set to self-expression. If there were only outside designers seeing the end from the beginning, nature would present us with insoluble puzzles in her building. So many are the inadequate attempts, the ineffective designs. But when we realize the presence of the will to live in each form, seeking self-expression, shaping his vehicles for his own purposes, then we can see alike the creative plan which underlies all, the plan of the Logos, the admirable adaptations which work out his plan, the labor of the building intelligences, and the inapt contrivances and clumsy expedients due to the efforts of the selves that will, but have not yet the knowledge or the power to perform perfectly. It is in this groping, striving, struggling divine self which, as evolution goes on, becomes in ever-increasing measure the true ruler, the inner ruler, the immortal. Anyone who grasps that he is himself that immortal ruler seated within his self-created vehicles of expression gains a sense of dignity and power, which grows ever stronger and more compelling on the lower nature. The knowledge of the truth makes us inly free. The inner ruler may still be hampered by the very forms he has shaped for self-expression, but knowing himself as the ruler, he can work steadfastly to bring his realm into complete subjugation. He knows that he has come into the world for a certain purpose, to make himself fit to be a co-worker with the Supreme Will, and he can do and suffer all which is necessary to that end. He knows himself divine, and that his self-realization is only a question of time. Inwardly, the divinity is felt, though outwardly it is not yet expressed, and there remains to become and manifested what he is in essence. He is king de jure, not yet de facto. As a prince born to a crown patiently submits to discipline which is fitting him to wear it, so the sovereign will in us is evolving to the age when royal powers will pass into its grasp and may patiently submit to the necessary discipline of life. All right, I'm going to leave it there. We will, it's super interesting. Thankful to get this information again. It's been a long time since I've read it. Everything looks totally different now. There's a lot in here to ponder on for the day. Pick back up again tomorrow, I think, with Tom, and do chapter 2 here. The nature of desire. That'll be good. All right, friends. Have a good one. See you soon.